Hello and welcome back to Full of a Took. We are here to hang out and talk about Chapter 4, A Shortcut to Mushrooms. I thought this chapter was so fun. I had such a good time with it. It was a really cool arcs, and there's a lot going on, and we get creepy, and it's funny, and
short and sweet.
Short and sweet, yeah. I mean, honestly, this was I think the fastest read of the chapter so far. I mean, we're 4 chapters in, so I don't want to speak too early, but it went pretty quickly. I mean, we sat down last night, and we were done in a half an hour. And
yeah, we flew through it.
The first chapter was 2 hours.
Yeah.
So it's a big difference between them, you know?
But there's only, 26 chapters?
Yeah.
Or something like that?
22,
So we're coming up on like a quarter of the way.
Yeah.
We're an appreciable percentage into the book.
That's wild, isn't it? They haven't even left the Shire yet.
Oh, weird.
No, that's true. That's very true.
Maybe they don't make it. Maybe
That
they
being
stop for
said,
one too many breakfasts.
Yeah, the journey so far is not optimistic.
I'm starting to feel a little bit concerned for the hobbits. I'm very much like, I don't know if you're making the smartest choices.
You're trusting the right people.
Trusting the right people. I'm feeling a bit judgmental early on of them and their choices, but there's a bit of like a breadcrumb trail of like a little bit of wisdom that they're kind of hiding in each chapter, where they're like kind of making bad choices, but then there's a bit of a reason why, and then they are like, we are aware of what we're doing and we're smart enough. So I keep being proved, wrong, which is nice.
Partially.
But partially.
They're still making dumb decisions.
Yeah. What'd you guys think of this? What'd you think of the chapter?
It was good. It was short. It was easy to read. A little journey. Some weird decisions being made, and I got very worried for them.
Yeah, it's a wild chapter, and not to cut to the end on anything, but I feel like this entire chapter can be summed up as, where are your parents? Because even the way you guys were talking about them, it's like, I wish they would make better choices. They'll get there. They're not really where are they hanging out with the best people right now?
Yeah.
I worry. Where are they after school? They are, to me, that's the theme of the chapter. Everything happens and it explains that and enforces a lot of stuff, and there's tons and tons of personality. But to me, this chapter is about they are not ready.
What happens when you let hobbits go unsupervised?
Yes.
Yeah. It's like an after-school special.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. So before we jump into a bit of a summary, Robbie, why don't you kick off a bit of a recap of last chapter to catch us up to where we are at the beginning of chapter 4?
Sure. In chapter 3, after much deliberation and some fat shaming, Frodo leaves Hobbiton with Sam and Pippin. Along the way, they evade a mysterious black rider and later befriend a party of elves led by Gildor and Glorian. There has still been no word from Gandalf, and everyone, including the elves, are starting to worry.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's it.
Perfect. All right, my dude. You want to kick us off?
All right.
Tell us about A Shortcut to Mushrooms.
Okay, so the chapter starts with Frodo waking up in his elf bed, in this bed under the trees, and the sun is coming through. It's amazing. He's having this great moment, and Pippin shows up. It's like, oh, you're awake. Great. We're waiting on you. Here's some breakfast. The elves left us some absolutely tremendous food. And Frodo is he's eating and he's munching, and Pippin is sassing him. And Frodo's dishing it right back, and he's clearly unhappy with the exchange of information he did not get from the elves. More questions than answers. And he's wondering, should I even bring my friends on this? He is in a heartbeat. He realizes there's so much he doesn't know. And the elves were like, you should bring everyone you can. And Frodo's looking around. He's like, I don't even know if I should bring Sam. So they have this quick back and forth, and Sam's about it. He's in. He says, Frodo, I'm here for this. And they talk about are you sure you saw your elves? You can go home. This is fine. And Sam gives this like super insightful response, and Frodo sees him in a slightly different light. And Pippin's like, yeah, I'm here. We're just going to Buckland. This is fine. Also, the food's banging. I'm here for it. And Sam is like, yeah, well, I'm also here for it. I'm here to the end. Something is going on. This is a journey. My story goes beyond, and I don't know what, and I don't know why or how, but I am doing this. This is what I'm doing. And Frodo really takes a minute to think of that over and realize he's got great friends. At that moment, he's like, okay, but we got to go. So he says, we're going to take a shortcut. We're cutting cross country. And Pippin, sassing away, is like, shortcuts make long delays. And Frodo throws back through a mouthful of food. He's like, yeah, well, if people are looking for you on the road, they tend to look for you on the road. So we're going across country.
I love that.
That's such a great exchange. It's actually one of my favorite quotes of the chapter.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So they go, and they meet their first real enemy. But we know this enemy. We've been introduced before. Water. They find this. They find this little. I'm telling you, it's every chapter. Water. It's throughout the entire book. The point is they find this little stream, and there's sticker bushes on both sides, and I don't know. Can we get around? Do we go around? Should we? I don't. And Frodo's like, well, maybe we can go back up that's a Black Rider. Fuck off. And they book through they are just gone. They see the Black Rider on the horizon, the hill above them, and they just throw themselves through the bushes, throw themselves through the creek, and just book it into the woods like rabbits. It's September. It's early fall, and they're like near water, and they're in a low place, and fog is coming up. And Pippin's like, yeah, this happens all the time. It's going to be bad. So they're being followed. They're being hunted, and they're in the mist, and the sticker bushes have gotten them, and there's no roads, and they're learning every lesson you learn on basic land navigation about how to get fucked up and lost. And they feel closed in. They feel cut off from everything, but also they start to feel safer. They're like, he can't possibly bring a horse in here. He can't possibly bring a horse across the water. That would be insane. So they start to feel better. And then Pippin's like, by the way, the elves left us a little something. And they have some alcohol. And, all their worries are gone. And they sing their little song, and they have a happy moment. And then they hear this weird piercing shriek on the wind, like weird, warble, inhuman noises. Before anybody can even say, what the fuck was that? A second one answers from further away. And it's a hunting cry. They're being hunted. And Frodo's like, there's a message in that. There's a language, something awful in that somewhere.
Yeah.
We are being hunted. We got to go. So they start to book it through the rain that shows up. And so if you've ever been caught in a rainstorm in September, you start wet from the waist up, or waist down rather. And it's miserable, and they're having a hell of a time. And they start thinking more about how shitty the trees are than the robed monsters that are actively hunting them. Then the forest opens up, and they've got lost. They were supposed to be through this in a mile. It was 4 miles later. Pippin is like, I know this country. We are not going the right way. All we can do is go forward, though. Can't go backwards. And they come up to this huge field. The forest suddenly ends, and they see this expanse, and they see the river because they're headed for the ferry, right? They need to get to Buckleberry Ferry. And they can see it, but it's that way. And it's across a huge open field, and there's ridges around and hills, and Frodo's like, there's going to be a Black Rider on one of these somewhere, somehow. So again, they just bolt. They cross that field as fast as they can. They blitz through this grass, and they get all the way across, and they come up to farm fields and fences. And Pippin's like, oh, I know where we are. And Frodo's like, oh, thank God, we're somewhere we know. This is Farmer Maggot's field. And Frodo is not having it, because he has a little bit of personal history with this particular farmer. He used to steal from him all the time. And the farmer knows it, because the farmer at one point threatened to feed Frodo to his giant dogs.
Yes.
But it turns
I just love that visual. This tiny hobbit has these ferocious wolfish dogs.
Well, think about the scale too.
Yeah,
Think
he
about
must be the same height as them.
think
It's almost
about
like people who own horses.
I was just gonna
What are
say,
you talking about?
But he also has a giant ass horse. This man's a badass.
but think about that though. It's like even an English Mastiff, right? For a Hobbit would be the size of a horse.
Yeah.
Farmer Maggot's got 3 of them, and he like feeds strangers to them. He doesn't actually, but he threatens to when they're. But when they're children, they don't know the difference.
Yeah.
Scars them for life,
You believe
though.
it. You're gonna believe it when a farmer shows you dogs and says they're gonna eat you. You believe it.
It's scary enough when a big dog runs at you, and if that dog was the same height as you, oh my god, it's like a bear.
Can you imagine? Imagine if you met an unfriendly dog that could take your whole head off. Like
They're
you are.
called grizzlies.
Yeah.
Did I say bear?
No, I did.
She did.
Imagine you're a hobbit and you meet a bear. That's the end of
No,
your
thank
whole
you.
ass life. You just check right out.
They can
God.
swallow you in one bite.
But okay, so they get to this field. Frodo has this like inward moment. He is just absolutely disassociating, living the worst like parts of his childhood over again. And Pippin's like, I love Farmer Maggot, and Farmer Maggot loves me. Let's go. So they pop over the fence and in they go. And wouldn't you know it, they meet Farmer Maggot's dogs. Scares the hell out of everybody except Pippin. And they just they're like, oh, we know Pippin. And they meet Farmer Maggot, and we meet Farmer Maggot, and he is extremely unfriendly. Who are you, and why shouldn't I have my dogs rip you to shreds, basically? Mr. Maggot, it's me. Pippin. Oh, Mr. Peregrine Took. Lovely to see you. By the way, and this is important, because Pippin thinks the cover story is the real story, this is my buddy Frodo Baggins. Right? He's supposed to be Mr. Underhill.
Underhill.
Oops.
Yeah.
Doesn't even catch that.
Hey,
I didn't even realize he said that till you. Oh my gosh.
because Pippin thinks the cover story is the real story.
Yeah.
It was so hard not to make a reaction when we were reading together. I was like,
Right? Right? Frodo Baggins, you say. I remember Frodo Baggins. And then he says, it's funny you should talk about Baggins. I've had some strangers asking after Baggins. And they try to lead him on, and it's very clear that Farmer Maggot does everything on his own time. And he's like, why don't you come back to my house? No, we really got to get going, but could you tell? No, why don't you come back to my place? I'll give you a drink. So they go back, and they're going to have a drink. And Farmer Maggot starts talking. Apparently, a black figure on a huge horse came out to Farmer Maggot's farm that morning and was like, I'm looking for Baggins. Farmer Maggot stands his ground, all 3.5 feet tall, stands his ground with his dogs, who are scared shitless, and tells this guy to like pound sand. You need Baggins? Go to Bag End. That's in Hobbiton. I don't know why you're here. Get off my property. Well, if you see a Baggins, let me know. I'll come back with gold. He says, the hell you will. Stay off my land or I'll have my dogs rip you up. I don't know where he gets the balls to say something like that, but he does.
Words from a little man.
Right.
3 feet tall, talking to a 7 foot tall rider on a horse.
Right?
Get out of there.
with no face, no hands, or no feet. I mean, that's pretty badass.
Can you hear me up there? Fuck you. They go back and like and Frodo is like, oh, he's having some real bad feelings. And Maggot's like, I don't think you're very surprised to hear that there's some like weird stranger looking for you. You don't seem very surprised by that news. I told you shouldn't go getting mixed up with Bilbo Baggins. They're probably looking for him. You should have stayed in Buckland where sensible people live. And like Sam is now like staring daggers. Because the thing about hobbits is, even though there's only like 1,000 of them living in a space the size of your garden, they're very territorial about like people from the North Farthing and the South Farthing. And like once you go 10 miles down the road, they barely speak the same language. Not true, but
They don't trust each other.
right.
Yeah.
Too close to the river.
Yeah.
Is I think exactly what Maggot says. And so there's like a character difference between all these hobbits. And they have these little rivalries. And it's adorable and it's cute and it's so small-minded. Farmer Maggot says, like, I'll tell you what, you seem stressed. Stay for dinner. And Frodo's like, no, we really got it going. He said, no, stay for dinner. No, we really got it. Stay for dinner. And we take my wagon to the ferry. Mrs. Maggot's not about this.
So Frodo says, I'll stay for dinner.
Yes, he's absolutely. Because who didn't want to walk? Frodo. Who would love to be driven? Frodo. So like they stay for dinner and they have this Beautiful dinner, and all the farmhands and all the hobbits and all the family comes in. It's like 20 people at dinner. Miss Maggot must have been cooking forever. In that moment, I appreciated my grandmother's cooking so much because I grew up in a house with 8 people, and we always had dinner. Like, it was a big fucking deal. 5 o'clock was dinner, and if your ass wasn't at the table, there better be a reason why.
Yeah.
So they have dinner, and they hook up this wagon with these 2 ponies, and Maggot's like, yeah, it's probably best I don't put the lights on, so we'll just go in absolute darkness in the fog to the river. And they have this insanely stressful 5-mile drive where they're all staring into pitch black, looking for black riders, trying to listen for a different horse over the clip-clops of these 2 ponies.
And I bet the wagon probably made a lot of noise.
That screeching.
Yeah, like the springs and off from the suspension. And yeah.
I can just hear it.
Fucking terrifying, right? And they make it to the ferry. And it's amazing. And Maggot is going to say his goodbyes and like, yeah, my wife's probably really not happy that I'm out after dark. So I'm going to go. And they hear clip, clop, clip, clop, clip, clop. Somebody coming down the lane at them. And everybody's like freaking out. And they're like, they aren't ready.
I was freaking out.
Yeah, I was too. and like,
Frodo under a blanket.
yeah, it's like, hide Mr. Frodo in the bottom of this turnip pile. It'll be safe there. And Sam and Maggot are like, all right, we're going to throw down. Let's do this. Nothing said by Pippin. He's
Very
staying in
Pippin.
reserve. Reserves are important. And who should it be? But someone looking for Baggins. But then he pulls his scarf down and it's fucking Mary looking for them because like, oh, I thought you would have been in the bar uptown, but I got worried when I didn't find you drinking, so I thought I'd come out looking to make sure you didn't fall in a ditch.
Yes.
And that's the end of the chapter.
When Mary shows up in the pitch dark, I was honestly in my head so relieved that it was him, but at the same time, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing in the middle of the dark, Mary? Like, you know what I mean? On that exact court, I don't know.
I was like, did he know?
Yeah.
Was he pretending to be a black rider? Is there any way he could have known that?
yeah,
And he was
exactly.
just screwing with
Nefarious.
him?
Oh my God.
It was really
Is Mary
interesting.
that big of an asshole?
Big prankster.
Yeah.
I don't know. I liked it, but great job with the summary.
That was excellent. Thank you, Pat.
No, thank
Nice
you
and
guys.
succinct. Man, so much happens in this chapter. It's so fun.
It's short but very fast paced, which I really
I
appreciated.
have so many things I want to talk about. I don't know about you guys.
It's full
but-
of personality.
Yeah, you really do get a sense of like who the hobbits are, and what they really care about. I mean, you mentioned Pippin kind of fucks off in the end. Like, you know, I'm starting to believe that maybe perhaps Pippin is a lot of talk, but not a lot of walk the walk.
Big
You know
bluster.
what I mean? And Sam, I'm just starting to like really feel like Sam is just like Rocky Balboa.
Yeah.
Like he's just like ready to go at all times.
He's going to throw.
Yeah, and I'm starting to really appreciate that kind of a character being around Frodo, who's a bit of like a, I don't know, he's a bit of a annoyance, I'd say.
Frodo is?
Yeah,
Frodo's being carried by his friends right now.
yeah, that's all. Yeah.
He's
He's
going through a
finding
lot.
himself.
No, but thinking of like other characters or book references to characters, did anyone else have a Beatrice Potter throwback through most of this?
Who's Beatrice Potter?
So she's a famous British author. She wrote a lot of kids' books about Tom Kitten and obviously Peter Rabbit.
Oh.
And Peter Rabbit was constantly stealing carrots from Farmer McGregor's garden. And a lot of this chapter just threw me back to that. And then running through I just could imagine Frodo as that bunny.
As the rabbit, literally.
Yeah, literally.
How do you? When did you read this last?
Peter Rabbit? Come on, man. You
Maybe
never...
I was 7.
Grew up with it, right?
I grew up with it.
Yeah, I grew up with Peter Rabbit too. I couldn't tell you what happened in Peter Rabbit,
I loved it.
or the name of Peter Rabbit's
Jemima Duck?
nemesis. What? How do
No,
you
I
know
don't
that?
know
Yeah, I mean, classic childhood moment. And this is such a. I think it's Tolkien tipping a hat.
That's about to pop.
Because I got an idea.
Well, because they were written in the 1800s. He probably grew up also reading these books. I think 1800s, maybe later, but it was like early, at least 20th century at the latest. Someone please fact check me in the comments.
Oh, they will.
I know they will. But yeah, I just think it was such a cool like nod to that. It just took me right back to my childhood.
So, okay, a reference that you might get that I also like plugged into is Farmer Maggot, right? Maggot. Was
What
it
an awful
Maggot?
name.
But just
Very fitting, though.
Yeah. Focus on the sound of Maggot. Farmer Hoggett.
Who's that?
You know
Is that
it.
from Babe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
How
Yeah,
did
that-
you know that?
I don't know.
Babe.
Babe was like a classic growing up.
Yes.
Well done, pig.
How do you
Well
guys
done,
know
pig.
the names of these
What are
characters?
you talking about? Did you not like grow up with that?
I watched Babe several times. Couldn't tell you anything that happens in it besides there's a farmer that doesn't kill the pig he's going to
My
kill.
favorite opening to
Oh
any
my
of my
God,
childhood
it's so
films
good.
was the opening to that film.
I read Charlotte's Web a lot. I couldn't tell you
Yeah.
right now who Charlotte was.
The spider.
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 Say-
The
Chris.
little spooter.
Charlotte's Web.
Web. Also,
I'm
that
just
part
saying.
makes me cry. Don't bring it up.
I have a hard time with it. I can't remember these things. So I think let's dive into this because I know it's a short chapter, but I actually have a pretty decent list of things that I want to talk about. The first thing I want to bring up is I have written down, there's a bit of a bread payoff from chapter 3. And I don't know if you guys caught that, but the end of chapter 3, right before they go to bed, Pippin is, I think he wants to go talk to Frodo, but he sees bread on the table. He gets distracted by the bread and he goes, well, who am I to turn down a good piece of bread? And so he eats the bread. And then the next morning, it specifically mentions at the beginning of chapter 4 that Pippin was sitting there eating more of this delicious, wonderful bread. And I just thought it was a nice little payoff of like, it promised me something in chapter 3, and now it continued on it of like, there's clearly things to do. And Pippin's sassy in the beginning. He's like, I've been up this whole time. I'm waiting for you. So don't tell me that we slept late. You slept late, Frodo. I've been up. And then he's like, I've been eating this bread.
My favorite was the bread tastes almost as good as it did last night. I didn't want to leave you any, but Sam insisted.
yeah, exactly. I was like, that's a great payoff. I
was
love
great.
that. I love that. And then that goes right into sort
Little
of
shit.
eating at breakfast, which is my second note, which is they have a great line, which is think ? At breakfast ? Good heavens.
I agree.
And then Pippin like stomps away.
I'm not a morning thinker.
Frodo is like acting like straight up like Bilbo in this whole segment.
Oh my God, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Like his attitude.
I
he's
saw
like-
myself in him. Of just being like, I haven't had my coffee. We're not discussing anything serious.
Yes.
You know?
Agreed.
And I wake up. And
Yeah.
I'm like, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, no.
Yeah. It's like somebody, you remind me of in The Princess Bride.
Oh my God.
When the guy's mostly dead and they put the meatball in and he wakes up and he goes, I gotta get him. And they're like, oh, he's good. That's you.
Doesn't matter how much sleep I have. When I'm up, I'm up.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, like what I love about these characters and what I love about this chapter is like Tolkien knows these characters, right? Like they are dripping with like sass and little things like the bread and like he knows these people. He knows these hobbits and he knows how they interact with each other in a very, very intimate way. And so you have these fun little exchanges and you don't question for a second that these three have not known each other for ages. And like Pippin and Sam are not friends, but they associate through Frodo. So it's your friend's friend that you kind of like, you're a little about. Like that comes through in every chapter and every moment.
This chapter and this first page really got me wondering just how much younger Sam and Pippin are than Frodo.
It actually is
'Cause he
mentioned.
says, it's one thing to take my young friends walking over the Shire with me.
So they're around 33.
Interesting.
they?
Oh, so they're barely adults.
So to my calculations, which I could be wrong.
They probably are 33,
So
right?
You think?
Sam-
They're like just barely adults?
They're a man, isn't
So
it? Like
right
a
before
30.
when Gandalf comes
30?
back,
Is that what it is? 30?
and
Yeah.
right before it's 33 when they come of age. Right
We were
before,
both schooled.
right before Bilbo's Frodo's 50th birthday, Sam has just become the gardener, which you don't come of age to 33. So he wasn't able to take over the family business until he was a man. And so I feel like he's around that age. But there's a good 17-year age gap.
Yeah, that's a big gap.
Yeah. On page, the next page is Sam's amazing speech.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, in this chapter, that's one of my favorite pieces of writing that he did in dialogue. Like everything he's saying, where he's like, "If you don't come back, sir, then I shan't that's for certain. I was like, this is such a sweet moment where he's just like, if you jump, I jump, Jack. You know what I mean? He's all in on Frodo.
Yeah, because this is the moment where like Frodo has had that moment of like, I can't bring my friends on this journey, not even Sam. And so he turns to Sam and he says like, are you sure you're in, bro?
Yeah.
Are you've seen your elves? And then
He gives him the chance to back out.
Yeah.
He says, like, you got what you really wanted coming into this. Are you sure? And he's like, yo, those elves told me, don't you leave him. Like, I feel like this is the point where Sam really understood the assignment.
Yeah, and he
he's
even
like,
says,
this is a very dangerous trip, and I am here for it.
yeah.
Well, yeah, my favorite part of that is he says, if he climbs to the moon and if any of those black riders try to stop him, they'll have Sam Gamgee to reckon with. Like right in that moment, my God.
He's got kahunas.
Right.
He does?
Such an amazing character.
And he talks that way. And then when it's time to go fuck up a Black Rider, Sam is out of the wagon and in the middle of the road, like
And
rolling up his
throws
shirt
a
sleeves.
blanket over Frodo.
Yeah.
Hide, sir. And he just,
I like that Sam says he must see his mission through.
Yes.
And it shows very early on just like a very intentional character development of...
Not only that, like the first character that actually says something like that, Gandalf's like, I'll help you. And then he's disappeared. He's not back yet. Like no one here is someone that's trustworthy or steadfast. And
Yeah.
Sam is both of those things to the T. And I just love it.
He is all in.
that's a rude thing to say about Pippin.
Well,
I mean,
Well, Pippin is only concerned about one thing, and it's about getting to the Golden Perch, who has the best beer in East Farthing.
Yep.
And I would like to talk about that because I wrote
Agreed.
that down. I related to Pippin.
right. So this is the moment where
If we're
that
going on a road trip, this is the place I want to hit on the way.
right because
know?
that's when he makes his quip about like shortcuts make long delays. But if we go that way, the bar is just up the road.
Yes, exactly.
And that was the first place Mary looked for them.
yes.
And even Frodo says, shortcuts may make long delays, but inns make even longer ones.
I forgot about that.
Right?
Yeah,
so,
that was great.
So right off the bat, Frodo is saying, look, you're looking to get drunk and stay overnight. We don't have time for this.
At all costs, we must keep you away from
At
the
all
Golden Perch.
costs. And Pippin is just going, but they've got the best beer.
Even Sam is like sad inside. He's like,
Yeah.
I could have done with more beer.
Yeah. Anytime I go somewhere, I'm always like, oh, well, when we're there is a spot I want to hit. Every time I go to Baltimore, I want to go to Joe Squared Pizza because it's the best pizza I've ever had. Turns out
What is it called?
Joe Squared Pizza.
Joe squared.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it just
Bet there's
closed.
2 Joes.
Oh,
I found that out because I went to Baltimore over the weekend and I looked it up and it was closed.
Damn.
But I've been going there every time I go to Baltimore. I'm like, oh, we should get Joe Squared Pizza because we're in Baltimore. Every time I go to this place, I go, well, we should go here because I'm never up in that area. So Pippin's just simply saying, well, if we're going to be in that area, that's the best beer in the area. We should stop there on our journey. And they shunned him and.
Well, he's also like maybe not taking these Black Riders seriously.
one of the things I talked about before was like you learn the character of the Hobbits, how they really aren't ready for this. They're facing existential threats. There's monsters hunting them in their homes.
But Pippin doesn't know that. He wasn't eavesdropping on the story.
He kind of learned in the Elven, what's it called?
Yeah,
He
excuse me,
learns that
elves.
they are servants of the enemy, but he's like, what enemy? Whatever.
But right, like none of them are really taking this seriously. None of them are really appreciating the fact that they're going to be ripped apart if one of these things gets within arm's reach of them.
Yep.
I mean, Frodo, I think, understands what they're after and why it's such a big deal.
Yeah,
Sam is just scared shitless.
Yeah, I like that Pippin looks up at the trees at the hill and sees the Black Rider, and he goes,
Never mind.
I think we're okay. I was like, what? You're fucked, dude. What are you talking about? Get in the woods now.
That being said, when I read that, my immediate thought was, that must be a damn good beer. Like, I think Tolkien missed an opportunity here to start a chain of bars and restaurants.
Right?
You know what I mean? Like, I would love to go to the Golden Perch and have a beer that made me willing to cross paths with a Black Rider.
Yo, so
I said the real thing for a second. I was like,
nope, we don't know that word
We
yet.
don't know what it is
We don't.
yet.
That's a bad word. We don't know it.
So to just quickly jump subjects real fast I wanted to ask you guys because everybody in this room is much smarter than me. I had a
Taxes.
question. They bring it up that there's 18 miles to go. And I wanted to think about how we refer to distance and the names of it. So obviously we have names for time passing, like a fortnight. Are there any other kind of terminologies for distance or that we call distance measurements in like shorthand or slang for it?
So real quick, one, the hobbits do not understand metric, so we can forget that one.
Okay.
Easy.
They use leagues, furlongs.
What's is league is distance?
Yeah. Many leagues.
It's like a nautical thing, right?
yeah.
20,000 leagues under the sea or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's a-
Jules
Or
Verne, you
30,000.
got it, baby.
20 or 30?
It's
You just made
20.
Robbie so proud.
20?
20,000
70,000 leagues under the sea.
He just wants to know how many miles.
No,
it
but
is.
Jules Verne, you got it.
I was going to
There's
say
8
Jules Verne.
furlongs in a mile.
Is it really?
Yeah,
Oh,
wait,
that's a
part of
horse.
horse racing.
That's a horse fact.
Wait,
Yeah.
what was it?
It's 8 furlongs in a mile.
So a mile is
hope.
8 furlongs. So a mile divided by 8, 690 feet,
What?
No.
700 feet.
Did you just Rain Man that shit?
7 times 8 is 56.
Yeah.
So 52 divided by 8 is...
Oh no, he did Rain Man that shit.
I'm so impressed.
Wow.
I do math. I don't remember things like that, but I do math.
Well, my math going
It's
through
not
this whole
exact math, but it's
Laura's
around.
girl math.
It's within 20,
math.
20 digits
Girl
of that.
math.
Laura's girl math.
My girl math was
Hobbit math is
they
2
have
breakfasts.
18 miles to go in one day. And then, okay, so they wagoned the last 5 miles. They walked 13 miles through brush and river and like
Rain.
woods in one day.
Black
Also, they're
Riders.
getting 3 steps per hour step.
Yeah,
so their
it's like
average,
3 miles
their,
an
their
hour for
iPhone is like,
us.
Wait.
you're doing better than normal. You're up to 70,000 steps
Is
today.
it terrible? I just saw Super Mario, like Mario's little feet and like Toad,
So
like
okay.
bucking ass down that.
Better than South Park
Like, could
feet.
they really have walked 13 miles
Yes,
in one day?
absolutely. Because a human being, so a normal human on a flat surface like a road walks
3 miles an
3
hour.
miles an hour at average. Standard army mile or pace is 4 miles an hour. It's a little faster.
Yeah, but they're tiny little guys.
But because we got the tiny little feet.
So they don't expend
actually
as much
have giant
energy
feet.
to walk.
Yeah.
They actually have large feet.
Well, they have
don't
large
walk as
feet,
We
but
get
their legs.
tired. Well, we get so much more tired
like a
because
chicken.
we have bigger strides, right?
Right. But the point is they could absolutely walk, 13 miles in a day? Because you figure a human being, we walk
Yes, yeah.
about 3 miles an hour. So it's only 6 hours of walking for a human being. Now, do the hobbits
They're like
do...
climbing through briars and bogs. But they also didn't go in a straight line.
No.
Because Frodo said, in a straight line it would be 18 miles, but they kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
zigzagged.
If you fly is
Yeah.
the line.
Yeah.
So what do you think
Nice
is more than
recall.
that?
Oh, 100% is
more.
more than that. Yeah, when you're doing shit in the woods, you go for the easiest path
So they're
forward,
at like 20.
which is how they got
20 miles.
lost.
Yeah.
Because they were in the fog too. Like they couldn't see where they were going. All they could see is that like, oh, if I go this way, it's shit. If I go that way, it's less shit. I'll go this way. And they were making that decision every 10 feet.
The line that scared me the most in this chapter was this is Stockbrook. So they get to a brook and Pippin's like, oh, I know this. If we're going to try and get back on our course, we have to cross and bear right.
Yes.
And it's like, do you really know where you are?
Yes.
How much do you have to
he
bear
does
right?
know where he is. No, I don't know.
I don't know. I was like,
Right?
oh my God, they don't really know where they're going.
They got lost as fuck.
Yeah.
They are not. So again, they are not prepared for a journey inside the Shire. They're not ready. They need friends. Gilder and Glorian looked at them and was like, "Where are your parents?" And it was a real question.
Then he was like, and here's my honeyed wine. Enjoy.
Have some mead.
You know what? Have
will
one
help.
last ray of sunlight before the
dangerous to go
riders
alone.
find you.
When I was reading this section, I took a note, which my numbers did not appear on this printout, but it says, "Did the elves roofie them?"
No.
Because
Broke Pat.
when they drink it, they have a very interesting description
They started singing.
of how they feel.
They get drunk.
Yeah, but it could have been a different kind of drunk. You know.
Well, I don't know.
Don't
Maybe
be
an
so
elf's
dark.
metabolism works
Yeah.
differently because they're immortal.
Well, so that's what I'm saying. Is it an alcohol for an elf I mean, it's kind of like if you give moonshine to a mouse.
Well, real quick, there's
Yeah.
a big
you know
thing.
what I mean?
in-
Like
It's a
they're
weird
gonna be
moment.
like,
It's like when everybody's done that science experiment in school where you like put a drop of nicotine on a turtle's heart and it just pops.
I did not do that in
Really?
school. Where the hell did you go to school?
Well, I'm not going to say that.
Hobbiton, apparently.
real quick,
Weird shit.
I know you don't read a lot of fantasy. There's a big trope in fantasy where you don't drink the fairy wine. And elves are basically fairies or high fae in this world. And so that kind of wine fucks up mortals, and I'm sure hobbits as well.
Yeah. So, feels
So
like
I understand
that
what
was
you're
an
saying.
intense.
I understand what you're saying, but I don't think it was supposed to be that way. I
I don't think it was like a sexual roofalin.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying
But
there's
I mean, I
also
think they gave them something that knocked them on their ass. You know?
100%.
Imagine you had 5,000 years to perfect making wine.
Yeah.
At the end of that, are you going to make something that's safe for children or things that are sizes like children?
No, they're
sized
gonna,
of children.
What is going to knock an elf on its ass? That's what they gave them.
I was assuming it was mead because it had the scent of honey.
Yeah,
Flowers.
Oh, I was
Many
so
flowers.
disappointed we didn't have mead to bring.
I know.
Yeah.
But like,
well.
so you're an elf, right? And you're on your way to leave the world of men and mortals and all this bullshit. You're heading to the Grey Havens, and you're like, oh, it's Frodo. Here you go, kid.
But they didn't even stick around to like watch, right? Wouldn't
I
that have
know.
been funny?
That is why it felt more like a roofie.
That's called culpability.
Instead of like camaraderie drinking together, they were like, here, drink this. And then they left.
And then as they like
Yeah, the
trot off
hobbits
into
were
the
like,
woods.
oh, what a good morning. Oh,
Wait, no,
have a little
Pippin's just in
bread.
there housing bread.
They have a little this thing, and then they walk 20 miles. I bet you the ferry was only 3 miles away.
Well, at one,
But they were doing circles.
well, at one point they do say like Pippin's like this woods is only a mile across.
Yeah.
and they'd go for hours through the trees.
That's what I'm saying. I think they get drunk, that they almost borderline black out to the point where a black rider is in the distance and they're like,
No, that was before they had the wine.
Yeah,
oh, well,
yeah,
that was
Pippin's
before.
little. Yeah,
And then they have the wine, and then another one comes. They hear the wail after the wine, which is even worse.
yeah. Well, they sing
Oh,
their
that
little
must be
song
scary.
too, which I think is a fun little song.
I have it open. It's ho 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 to the bottle I go.
Wait. I need this to be cinematic.
One ring to rule them all. One
The
ring to find
best
them.
radio voice from the 40s that you got.
Yeah, see?
Oh, okay.
Flash.
What was that Sisters
Japan
band?
is attack Guadalcanal.
Oh my god.
We have voiceover artist Becca Harthart here.
Oh jeez. No, she's a baker. All right. So this song
Yes.
is adorable. Ho 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 to the bottle I go to heal my heart and drown my woe. Rain may fall and wind may blow, and many miles be still to go. But under a tall tree I will lie and let the clouds go sailing by.
Nice.
Awesome.
Now, how would Johnny Cash sing it?
No, wait. Actually, you know how I hear it, and I'm not a singer. So
ho, ho, this heart
Or Jimmy Buffett?
it's an Irish ditty.
Oh, let's go.
I hear it as a ho 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 into the bottle I go to heal my heart and drown my woe.
No, you have to do the whole
Don't
thing
give
now.
up.
Rain may fail and wind may blow, and many miles we still go. And under a tree I will lie. It's the word. And let the clouds go sailing by. Oh, what's that on a hill?
Yeah, right.
I heard it as this Irish, like, dude, like people are like swinging each other around. They're
Like
like,
a jig.
yeah, they're just like fucked
after
up.
they got drunk, I think that's very accurate.
It's like very fast paced. They're just like going crazy.
I
And
grew up.
Gandalf's up on the hill looking at them dancing in a circle, and he's like, God damn it, these fucking hobbits.
Fucked up.
Fucking amateur
I
hour.
told them to walk.
Wait,
dancing.
can you imagine the Black Rider's POV? He's sitting there sniffing, and he hears do. He's like,
Oh my God.
Fuck, this is my life.
he's like,
Why
he's like,
can't I find these little fuckers?
He's like, is that them?
Yeah, so that brings me to a couple other things I want to talk about. One of them is I felt bad for Sam with the dogs. And I think the dogs specifically did not take a liking to Sam. And I wrote that it feels like Sam is being hunted by these dogs because Pippin is kind of like, oh, I know these dogs. I'm not worried about them. Frodo's like, ooh. And the dogs are basically just like, and Sam is like in the corner staring at them. So in that moment, I kind of wanted Pippin to stand up for Sam a bit.
Oh, hell no.
But it would be not his character to do that. And I get that. But it was just interesting because only a few pages prior to that, Sam sort of like has a bit of like this leadership of like, I know exactly where we are. We need to go around this thing. And Pippin's like, no, we got to go over here. And Sam sort of shows a bit of like, he's not so much like this dog that's being bossed around. He kind of shows a bit of leadership. For them, cut to him being cowering underneath in the corner, basically in front of dogs. Truly like flipped a bit of the, like how they present him a bit, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that like that was a moment where they could have like, what Sam's not going to fight a giant dog, but like I feel what that really does though is highlights Pippin's failures.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I don't think Sam did anything wrong, or that I think the writing was perfect. I don't wish they would have changed it or wished. I don't even know what his initials stand for, but I don't wish Tolkien would have changed it.
JRR.
Yeah. James Ronald Reagan.
No, you take that back.
Absolutely not.
Oh no.
This fucking guy. Where did you find him?
At a
Jimmy Ron.
At a South Philly bar. Connie's Rick Rack.
I think it's John Rob.
That's better.
Job Rob.
Job Robert.
Job Rob Tolkien.
Job Robert.
It's no less funny than your name.
James, but I'm not going there.
I already said it twice, but I think it keeps getting cut out of the episode.
Yeah, well,
Jimmy Pet Jim.
Jimmy Pet Jim.
Yeah,
for good reason.
I just thought it was really interesting.
It died on the editing room floor.
fine. Let it.
And I want to talk about these dogs because I
These
felt
dogs.
like the dogs had a lot of personality.
Pop quiz. Name one of Maggot's dogs. Just
Heel.
one. Wrong. Laura.
No,
Grip.
not wrong.
Fang.
Heel.
Grip. Heel is a command.
Yeah, that was not a name.
Wolf.
Last one is wolf.
Wolf.
Does he say heel as the first word after it?
Yeah.
It's
possible.
Heel.
That's a command.
It's
Yeah.
a dog command. It's a common dog command.
Well, I heard it as grip, fang, heel.
What about wolf?
It sounds like he was addressing, hey, wolf.
Exclamation.
All right. I mean, I'll give it to you.
No, you're right. It says here, grip, exclamation point, fang, exclamation point, heel, exclamation point.
And I was
see why
going
you
to
would
say,
think
I think
that.
it's really interesting that he named his dog Heel.
But then it says heel wolf.
All right. Chris, half credit.
It's written that way.
Half credit.
Patrick.
Especially in his large print edition.
When I was reading this chapter, we talked about this a lot. But, you know, Tolkien has some weird spellings. The first time I saw the word wagon in writing, Tolkien spells it with 2 G's. And I immediately thought, I wonder, is this a typo or does it say this in Chris's version?
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. I thought it was so cool. So let's talk about grip, fang, and heel,
AKA wolf.
aka wolf.
I did not realize just how big they were going to be compared to Hobbits until we had that little conversation.
It was cool.
That's horrifying.
I was
Right?
like legitimately, you know, I'm hearing about this and I'm starting to picture it. I'm like, this must be like truly terrifying. Which then kind of made me like get annoyed at Pippin because like, just think about it like if it was the 4 of us, right? And like someone has a huge animal that's kind of scary coming in, and one of us was cowering in fear. Like your natural inclination is to be like, oh, like it's okay, dude. Like, or we got you. But Pippin just kind of like crosses his arm and is like,
He's an asshole.
you know? And Sam's just like, please call off your dog's farmer, you know? It's just interesting.
Farmer Maggot's interesting, right?
Yes.
Because he's this little, I say little, but he's an old farmer. He lives on what is the edge of the Shire. He's got a walled compound. And like that's, I think, key to the mentality of hobbits in that area. He has a farm. It's got fences. He's got 3 enormous dogs that he sicks on people and a tall wall built around his house and the surrounding buildings. This is not a guy who feels like his neighborhood is good.
Right.
And he's in the Shire.
But like, even though he clearly doesn't trust the people in his neighborhood, he's even more distrustful of other parts of the Shire.
Yes.
Because he's like, oh, people from Hobbiton, they're so queer. And Sam is like,
And I had 2 thoughts. One, I love the point that everything was built. His house was built in brick.
Oh, yeah.
It reminded
he lives
me-
in a
Oh,
house.
they were house
It
dwellers.
a
reminded
hole.
me of the 3 little pigs and the
Yeah.
pig that does the house of brick and actually gets away. So he's actually going to protect himself. Like he's, doing it right, even though he's not. And then the second thing was that the name Maggot, I think, is not coincidental, obviously. And I'm trying to say this as vague as possible for where we are in the story. When the Black Riders comes up, he's a total badass. And if you think about maggots, what do? They chew on dead flesh. And they are actually the conqueror worm, if you're relating back to Edgar Allan Poe. And I was like, tipping my hat once again to J.R.R. Tolkien, you literary nerd like me. I see what you did there. I see. And I loved it.
That's outstanding. That transforms the entire understanding I have had for my entire fucking life.
This is the nerd I am. You're welcome.
No,
Are
that's
you
awesome.
sure it's not Jeremy Renner Reynolds?
Maybe.
Tolkien?
It can be, but don't you ever use that word again.
Johnny Rocket Red Ships?
Sure. Well, you got George R.R. Martin. That's not an accident.
Is it George? Is George R.
R.R.
Martin and
Yeah.
J.R. Tolkien or J.R.R. Tolkien?
J.R.R. Tolkien, George R.R. Martin. Not an accident.
Chris R.R. confused.
Sorry.
Well, again, when you're Catholic, you get 2 middle names.
yeah. That's true. Worked out for good old Georgie and Jeremy.
So one thing I noticed, Farmer Maggot did this in this chapter, but we've seen it a couple times so far in other chapters. These tiny hobbits are not afraid to sass and tell off the Black Riders.
That is so true.
These little 3-foot beings are talking to 8 feet of horse and man and saying, "Go back where you came from. Get out of here."
Wait, that was such a perfect impersonation of Wizard of Oz.
I don't know.
The guy
Not
at the
what I was-
window.
Or like,
Not what I was
Horse of a different
intending.
color.
Yeah.
or like
But,
any of the
These guys are
goblins.
scary. The dogs are scared of them. They're whimpering. The elves are scared of them. They're like, "Oh, you need Gandalf. Where's your parents?"
Here's some meat.
And the hobbits, all of the hobbits are like, "Wah, wah, wah, get out of here." They're just not taking this seriously.
That
But
is
they've
so
never
true.
known anything scary, I guess.
But does it not remind you of the way small dogs act in a dog park?
I was just going to say that.
Like, if you don't stake out your territory and throw hands with everything that moves, what are you? You're either a little dog that fights everything, or you're a rabbit that runs from everything.
It makes me think of those videos on YouTube or Instagram where it's like a pug that's fucking with a lion.
Yeah.
Where there's like a animal wildlife rescue place, and the owner has a little dog, and the dog walks right up to, or even a cat.
Yeah, cats.
See the cat
walk
chase that
bears.
black bear up a tree?
Yeah, and you're just oh my gosh, where? And I think it's probably the same question for those videos as it is for these hobbits, which is, where are they getting their courage from?
A lack of
Hobbits-
perspective.
Yeah, it's just ignorance. They just straight up have no idea that anything out there could hurt them,
Yeah. So,
or even would want to.
I think it's their hanger. They're not having their 11 meals. They're fucking starving, and they will fucking kill anyone that gets in the way of their bread and their food.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
I get it. I get it.
yeah.
It's their ancient and terrible foe, water.
What could be worse than water?
Tall foreigners.
Not a tall foreigner.
No beer. So
dishes.
I actually want to talk about one thing. It's kind of like my last note that I really have on the chapter. But it's just about Farmer Maggot. I appreciated the full arc that his character went through. In the beginning, he's hostile. I don't like him. I'm actually quite nervous when they have their first interaction with him. And I'm actually sitting there going oh my God, what's going to go on? What's going to happen to them? Where are they going? And by the end, I feel protected that he's there. It's almost the same feeling I have that Gandalf being there, of this protective fatherly figure. And even in the end, it's really nice when Merry is approaching on his horse in the dark. And I've been in the dark in the woods at night, and it's terrifying. It's really scary. And for Maggot to just call out into the darkness, right? How dangerous that is. They everyone in this group has seen the Black Rider. Only the hobbits have been made aware of how dangerous this Black Rider is, but everyone has seen it. And I think Maggot is smart enough to know, despite his, courageous, ballsy attempt to tell off the rider earlier, that this is not someone to be messed with. This is clearly somebody who can hurt me. I bet you, I think it says in the previous chapter that they could see sort of like the silver on the rider, like on the boots and stuff like that. Like this is somebody, like there's some sort of armor on this rider of some kind.
Or weapon.
Potentially. Like this is it's not like just like a muddy boot.
It's like a giant on an elephant.
Yeah, and this is terrifying. So I just think it's really interesting that in the dark, you have this like cranky old man with these hobbits in his wagon, and he calls out into the darkness. Right next to him is Sam, just doing his thing, being courageous. And I felt in that moment like we're going to be okay, because the amount of heart and courage that's coming across in these guys is just through the roof. And I was actually quite bummed when Maggot leaves. I was bummed that was like such a cool character to come in. And I'm like, I kind of wish that like Maggot went on the journey with them.
Yeah, that would have been fun. But his wife would have been pissed.
He like rides
she
off.
would have gone to Mordor to bring him back home.
Does he ride off home? Or
Yeah,
does
he's
he
like-
I know he says he needs to go, but
Yeah.
does he actually leave?
Yeah, then he lights up his wagon and he
hits the road. And
he
then
clip
Mary
clops
is
and clip
now
clips and
with
clop
them,
clips.
Flip flops.
He flip flops away.
No, I actually made a note because we talked about how clip clops was the technical term.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they say that the ponies clop clopped.
Clip clop.
And no. The ponies clop clopped and Mary clip clopped.
Oh my god.
Because he has a real horse. He's
Yeah.
actually a full-size horse.
No,
So
it's all ponies, isn't it?
No, he's on a big horse
fuck.
because they think he's a black rider.
Right.
He's on a
Okay.
full-size horse.
But so did Mary steal a horse from the bar?
I think he did.
From a man?
That
who
feels
was
like
in there?
Mary.
It sounds like Mary.
But so to come back to what you're talking about with Maggot, like two things with that, right? On the one hand, it really contrasts what it really does is it shows that like hobbits have depth and strength and they can do these things. And
They hold grudges.
they hold grudges and they're like weird, like territorial, and they're not all these children that we're being introduced to, right? Because that's the other thing is like Farmer Maggot is like a shrewd, stalwart man who owns his farm and runs it and has walls and there's weird people in the night. And when lunatics show up, like offering to pay him whole ass gold for information he knows he has, you can fuck all the way off back to wherever you came from. So like that shows us the depth of hobbits. And the other thing it does is it contrasts with Frodo and Sam and Pippin. Like these are deeply unserious people. I love them.
I love that.
But they are deeply unserious people.
Amazing.
I enjoy that we experience Farmer Maggot from Frodo's perspective. So at the beginning, he's terrifying. His dogs are terrifying. And then all they do is sit around and talk for a while. And he says,
feeds them.
He says, "Thank you much for your kindness. I've been in terror of you and your dogs for 30 years. It's a pity I've missed a good friend." Like, he's a good guy. Yeah. And we're just experiencing it through Frodo, like, being so scared of him. Not for no reason. Like, he was stealing his mushrooms, and Farmer Maggot threatened to have his dogs tear him apart. But, like, being an adult about everything.
Yeah.
That was his little character arc.
So I guess my last thought is I had so many literary references in this chapter for me. It just made me realize just how well educated and how much of a lit nerd and linguist that Tolkien really was. Did any of you catch the Shakespeare reference? So the last page at the end of the chapter, our good old Farmer Maggot says, "All's well that ends well." And obviously that's the title of a famous Shakespearean play, but it was also a phrase as a linguist and someone who created a lot of dialogue that's still used to this day and words and like stuff in the English language that Shakespeare created. And so that's like a common phrase now that we use all the time.
And it originated with Shakespeare.
Yeah. And
That's
Tolkien
cool.
I'm not sure I even realized that.
and Tolkien not only knew that, but borrowed it and put it in his book. And I feel like it had to be because, like me, he's a huge fan of Shakespeare. And just all the language and the the words that we use today, all these years later, that he created.
Tommy Shakespeare?
Yes, William Tommy Shakespeare.
William Reagan Shakespeare.
Yes.
Fuck you.
Yeah, there's a ton of words in the English language
William
that
Ricky
William
Raven
Shakespeare created for his characters and plays. I'm done.
These two are
Jeez,
terrible.
Laura, you can't be
They're
having
beneath-
side conversations.
No, dude,
what are
we're
you
just gonna-
doing?
Look.
William
We're just gonna
Shakespeare.
pull
You
their
can't
plugs.
talk shit on people having side conversations
This
if you're
is
going to
gonna-
start side
We're gonna
conversations.
edit out their entire mic inputs.
Linguist to linguist.
Can you
I
just
feel like that was
cancel out the
Tolkien
mic?
being like, you created language and words that are still around to my time, which
Yeah.
now in our time is still here. And it was him just tipping his hat to Shakespeare and using one of his phrases as he's creating phrases and words in this book series that are now used to this day.
It's amazing.
I nerded out so hard.
Well, you bring up an interesting point because I have. We need to bring the word banished back.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
The
Banished.
bright morning had not banished the fear of pursuit.
Yeah.
It's like simple language, things like that. Just they make such a mark on the mind.
Improving your
you know?
vocabulary for words like that.
Frodo called the sunshine treacherous when he
love
woke
that.
up. Like, he had a bunch of paranoia and irritation. He was unhappy when he woke up. And Pippin's like, here, have some good bread, asshole. We've been waiting.
Pippin called the bread good.
Well, even the very
Well,
last.
I guess that's not impressive.
Almost as good.
Oh my God. No, but even the last
It's
sentence.
almost good.
Even the very last sentence of the chapter. He
Why are
said,
you like
suddenly Frodo laughed, from the covered basket he held, the scent of mushrooms was rising.
And it also takes us back to Maggot's story arc where like we're afraid of him and then he's kind of this protector figure and he gives Frodo a basket of mushrooms to indicate, I know you were stealing my mushrooms way back when. And it's just this cute little throwback to like, I know what you were up to.
Yeah, I like that.
remember you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That.
I thought it was clever, it was cute, but he was still just this
like an olive branch.
wonderful. Yeah. It's a wonderful figure that steps in and helped them.
Doesn't that
Yeah.
make you wonder so much about, like, the adults in your childhood that you didn't appreciate? And, like, everybody who just kind of, like, gave you a little nudge in the right direction?
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. One of them was Jeremy Ronald Reagan Tolkien.
The swords are on the wall, and you're going to get one, and I'm going to get one, and I'm going to kill you on camera.
So speaking of mushrooms, it might be time for this week's
Time for a treat.
Food
of a
for...
took. Food for thought. I have
Food
the
for a
right
fool.
three letters. The
Full
three
of a
letters
fu-
right.
Tool of a fuck.
Food, wait. Food for fools.
Food for fools. Perfect.
I like tool of a
That's
fuck.
how I feel right now.
I took
It's very late
some food.
and I'm very sleepy.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Fool.
How?
So for this week's episode, we are playing off of the wonderful meal that Farmer Maggot prepared for the whole party. So does anybody remember what he made for them?
No, I do not.
It was mushrooms and bacon.
Yes, now I remember.
Yep.
Because
I remembered that bacon.
I actually thought it sounded
I know, right?
fantastic. For a
Right?
second, I was nervous that you were going to have maggots for us. And be like,
I did briefly think about putting a couple pieces of rice on top of them to signify the maggots,
that's
but
gross.
No.
I decided not to.
No.
And I thought you guys might lose your cookies.
this looks awesome. So tell us about this. What is this? What do
So
we
this
got?
is a quiche. It has mushrooms, bacon, onion, and some green onion and cheddar cheese in it.
Wow, it looks
eggs?
amazing.
Eggs, of course.
And dough?
It's egg
Yes,
free.
there is a pie crust. I was thinking like it might be more chapter or more period to do like a pie. But then, I got home late, so quiche it
This
is.
looks unbelievable.
Yes.
so
So
excited.
yeah, we'll give it a shot. Oops. Bonk up against the wall.
You're going to break our set.
I know. I'm just going to go right through the wall.
You're not going to go through the vent.
How do I do this? I need to.
I don't know.
I'm just going to drape it over my head. So here's
fuck. That is so good.
That is amazing. Wow. Definitely want this recipe.
Oh, man.
I mean, you always complain about people putting bacon in everything.
Yeah.
Bacon is great.
It's really pleasant, and I'm curious about what our listeners think about this, but I'm a big fan of the breakfast for dinner club. And so I associate like a quiche with breakfast. Mm-hmm. So for me, it just instantly becomes like a little treat.
I love breakfast for dinner. That might have been why this felt right.
This is so
Did
good.
I spill it on me? I can't tell.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
I can't see.
Okay, hold on. Chin up.
You just got crumbs all over your front there.
Yeah.
There you go. Now they're
My mouth. I went for it. It fell off my mouth.
It happens to all of us.
Dang it. Well, I am thoroughly enjoying this meal. This was a sweet chapter, and I'm actually super pumped for chapter 5. What is the next chapter?
The next chapter is A Conspiracy Unmasked.
A Conspiracy Unmasked. Join us next week for chapter 5 of the Fellowship of the Ring. I'm Chris.
I'm Laura.
I'm Pat.
And I'm Robbie Jean.
And this is Full of a Took. See you next time.